This is without question. I believe this is show 23 or 24. This is without question the most exciting show that I think that I've ever had. Certainly the one that I've looked forward to the most. And again, it's so good to be with you guys here on football weekend. It's a different type of Saturday, right? There's what is there? I think there's one bowl game today. Bowl games are pretty much over except for the college playoff, but a couple of NFL games, and then of course a very historic game tomorrow. Sunday Night Football flexed. This show is going to be predominantly about the Lions. I reserved it for that because I believe that this is the biggest game in Detroit Lions football history. Yes. And okay, modern history. Let's make sure that we separate that from the Chuck Schmidt days in the 50s and such. Modern Detroit Lions football. This game tomorrow night, live nationally for the world to see, is without question the biggest game in Lions history, over and above the NFC Championship game last year, the NFC Championship game way back when they got blitzed by Washington, any other playoff game in history. The game that I was at in 1991, 38-6 over Dallas at the Silverdome, which was so electric, which in my view stood the test of time all the way up until last year. But this year is a completely different animal. Okay, so the Lions over the course of time have not been expected to perform at this level. Well, this organization from the top down, I'm not going to go through all the names again, has established a new era where the expectation is to be better than yesterday and not as good as tomorrow. And that every day they're growing or they're slowing, right? There is no in between. You're getting better or you're getting worse. You're never staying the same. And this version of the Lions, in a historic run and a historic season at 14-2, is obviously better than last year. And there's one more game that you have to factor in there that that weighs in at 12-4 last year, 14-2 this year with a chance to go 15-2. It has changed a lot, and you could argue that it has helped them, and you can argue, I think, validly both ways that maybe it's hurt them. But what I'm going to talk about today is what this means, not just for the franchise, for the now, but for the future, and the scenarios that will play out if they win versus if they were to lose. But first, let's talk about the historical nature of the game itself. For the first time, it's been 32 years. So again, the modern era, 32 years ago is a long time, 1993. It's been 32 years since the number one seed has been determined in the final week of the regular season. So that makes it big, right? It's the first regular season game in history to pit 2 13-2 teams playing each other, not in the playoffs. That's another thing. It's deciding the division. I mean, just think about that: 14-2 versus 14-2 in the same division. I could buy it maybe if it was someplace else, but in the same division, that is astounding, right? And the Vikings are basically, in a way, this year's version of last year's Lions. It's been an incredible run for them. Let's give them their due. 14-2 is no joke. That is, you are playing at the highest level possible to do something like that and endure injuries and endure, turnovers and just the week-to-week grind. One bye, 16 games played so far. In the Lions case, they haven't had a bye since week 5. To be honest, I'm not exactly sure when the Vikings bye was, but it has been some time because the byes don't go all the way up to the end of the season. They stop, I think, around week probably 11 now that we're in a 17-game season. So credit to the Vikings to be 14-2, credit to the Lions to be 14-2. I think you can also make an argument that the Lions season this year is more impressive than last year, not just because it's 14-2. versus 12-5 or 12-5. That's not what I mean here. It is the manner in which it has happened, and enduring those type of catastrophic injuries that would bury most teams. It is a credit and a testament to the way that the organization not only was built, but the way that it is managed and the way that it is coached. Again, from the very top, all the way down through Campbell and through every assistant on the team. To endure those types of injuries, arguably the best pass rusher in the game, linebackers, cornerbacks, running back, other defensive lineman, Aleem McNeil, who's arguably now the best interior defensive lineman in all of football. As I said, Hutchinson, you can make a compelling argument for sure, top three. I mean, TJ Watt has to be in that conversation. There's other guys that have to be in that conversation, but for sure a top three defensive end, basically accelerating his game to new heights until that unfortunate injury. They've been through everything. And so even Minnesota was through quite a few things. You got to remember, and I have to remind myself, this is Sam Darnold. This was supposed to be most likely JJ McCarthy's team. And preseason injury or training camp injury, when he blew out his knee, Sam Darnold, next man up, right? And Sam Darnold has been around. He's been with the Jets. He's been with Carolina. It didn't work out in either place. And it just goes to show you that when you're surrounded with talent and you're in the right system, in the right position, you have a chance to succeed. Now, the level at which he's succeeding at it's pretty high. It's historical type of high. But he has a mountain load of weapons around him. And when Hockenson came back from injury, that changed everything. And why do I feel it changed everything? Because it opens up the field for a whole bunch of other things to take place, and it makes his life easier. It makes everyone's life easier. Everybody in the world knows that their number one weapon is Justin Jefferson. And so when you lose Hockenson and you key over there on Jefferson, you tilt the field, you don't have to worry about the middle guy. What is it, Johnny Munt? Come on, guys. Johnny Munt? I think it's Johnny Munt or Ham. I'm not even sure who their backup tight end is. It doesn't even matter. It's not Hockenson. And ironic that it's Hockenson, right? Former Detroit Lion. And then on the other side, you have a young budding player in Jordan Addison, excuse me, but he was, developing and learning system and learning how to be a good pro. So you have Jefferson on one side, you have Addison on the other side, you have Naylor in the slot, you've got Aaron Jones, new running back to the system, right? And Sam Darnold, new starting quarterback to the system. And you got to make all that gel without Hockenson. Hockenson comes in, it opens up the middle of the field, or it condenses and makes people focus on the middle of the field. And then you have two explosive wide receivers that can take the top off of any defense. And then you have a running back who's tested and been through everything, that can run the ball well and is a great pass catching back out of the backfield. So they can beat you a lot of different ways, very much like the Lions can. And one of the most underestimated things about the Minnesota Vikings has been their ability to protect Darnold. And he is mobile and he can move around. So when there is pressure that breaks through, he has the ability to escape and get away just enough. And then those receivers have the ability to move around, find an open spot, and he's been able to find them. So credit where credit is due in the manner in which the Vikings got here. Credit to O'Connell, who's done an outstanding job. You guys have heard me talk about Brian Flores, many times in the past. I've talked about his defense and their exotic blitz schemes. He's a heavy blitz guy. He blitzed probably too much against the Lions in their first match in the first game in week 7, when the Lions won 31-29. The Lions have the ability to expose that, and they were pretty much fully healthy at that time. And they were probably fortunate. If I'm being totally honest, they were a little bit fortunate to win that game, and they did it in Minnesota. I think that Minnesota's defense is vastly improved since week 7. Straight up, it's improved, and they're healthy. They know how to rush the quarterback. Pace Jr. is a terrific player. He's one of the best young players in all of football. I still think that they can be beat at the cornerback position, but it's all about protection, and it's about giving whoever the quarterback is for whatever team the time and ability to be able to get the ball out. And Minnesota, in their place, very, very loud, very, very tough place to play. So they've been able to put all the pieces together and all the components, a lot like the Lions. Very, very explosive. If you're comparing it to last year, Jameson Williams last year was not quite the explosive threat that he is this year. And Addison, neither. But now Addison, Jefferson, Hockenson, Naylor, Aaron Jones, Darnold, all playing well, very good. The defense has gotten, as I said, much, much better. They are well coached. They are a disciplined team. They are healthy. They are Minnesota's won 9 straight since the game they lost to the Lions. Lions have won 9 out of 10 since that game, with the only loss coming to Buffalo. So it's all set. I mean, that cliche phrase, the table is set. Dan Campbell said it best. This is what it's all about. And that's also a cliche, but this is what you fight for. These are the moments where Hall of Famers are built. This is the moment where many franchises, in my opinion, are made and they're broken. This is where teams like the Buffalo Bills back in the 90s loaded all over the place. Andre Reed, Thurman Thomas, Bruce Smith, Jim Kelly. I mean, all these guys. And you get there 4 times, and they'll always be remembered for that. But their show on 30-30 was about them getting there and not being able to win. It always overshadowed the fact that they got there. What was highlighted is the fact that they lost those 4, not that they got there. People have given them credit for doing that. But it's what you do in those moments that you will be remembered for. People won't remember who lost this game for the most part, other than the local area of whatever said team. Nationally, it's really not remembered. So it's these moments that define careers, that define legacies, that define franchises, for better or worse. This is the moment that you're playing as a grade schooler. Back in our day, right? You played in the backyard a lot, and you talked about and you tried to emulate these types of positions, or in baseball, bottom of the 9th, two out, bases loaded, and you're thinking this through. Well, this is what both teams and everybody on those teams have done. Now, the Lions are the veteran here. Imagine that, right? The Lions are the veteran. This is new for the Vikings. There is something that has been thrust upon them that they've earned, but that is not customary for them. The Lions, while depleted in a lot of ways, injury-wise, they were there. They've been there, and they've done that. They went to the NFC Championship game last year, had a 17-point lead at halftime, and it slipped away. But this isn't the first go-round. And I think that is invaluable in this moment, basically 36 hours before game time, 34 or so hours before game time. In my view, this is Minnesota's Super Bowl. I think they're going to just go all out. This is one game. And it's that way for both teams, right? Nobody wants to lose this game. It's all out. The stakes are so high. It's just you look at the Ravens. They need to win today for playoff positioning and such, and they're going to try to get way ahead of the Browns, and then they're going to try to rest their guys. That's not happening today. Neither team, or tomorrow, excuse me. Neither team is going to be up by 40 and everybody's resting guys. This is all out, balls to the wall for 60 minutes or more if it takes to win this game. First in the division, first in the conference, first round bye, and the repercussions for either team, should you lose, is You wouldn't think that it could mean that much, one game, but it does. The winner of this game has the table set. I will submit this to you, and you can agree or disagree. And please reach out and comment when I live now or when I post this. To me, this game is more important to the Lions than it is to Minnesota. And I had a friend reach out to me, I think it was yesterday, and he said, I think everyone's buying into the Minnesota and the Lions injuries, and there's no way that they can beat them. I couldn't disagree more. I don't agree with that at all. This game is a must-win for the Lions more than Minnesota, and I think we're all going to watch that bear out. And you are at home on national television on a Sunday night game. Every other game is done. Every other playoff position will be determined by that time. Every other team will have, done the best they can. And then it's just all waiting on that game, which is why they flexed it to the 8 o'clock or 8:20 spot, whatever it is. But this game is more important. I got the chills right now. Legit. I got goosebumps all over my body because this is what you coach for. This is what you play for. It's these moments. And then once you get there, it's, can you rise up? Can you meet the moment and exceed the moment? Can you not only be in the moment, can you conquer the moment instead of letting the moment conquer you? And again, at a much, much, much lower level, I had the great fortune to play in 7 championship, coach in 7 championship games. And you bust your ass to get to that moment. And what happens if you fall short? In those 7 championship games, we won every one. So it was 7-0 in championship games. That was wow. That is just, it's a feeling that is difficult to describe, and it's regardless of any level. You obviously did really well to get to that point. Otherwise, you wouldn't be in that moment. And in the one particular run, we had to go through a gauntlet to get there. We had to go through I should say it's 7-1. It's 7 championships, and then the finals, we came up short in that game. So it's actually 7-1. Excuse me on that. But the work that gets put in and everything that gets done and what you build in experience and character and the teamwork, the chemistry, the understanding the moment, the not letting the moment be too big for you, but you bigger than the moment in terms of a team concept. And then you put all the pieces together. A lot of teams crumble in those moments. And back to the Buffalo Bills, you could make that argument that they did. And then you look at other teams that they just seem to thrive in those moments. And if you want to look at somebody who thrives in that moment, well, look at the New England Patriots. They what was it, 7-3 in Super Bowls in the Belichick era, I think it was. That's a 70% winning percentage. 7 out of 10 times. 3 out of the 10 you failed, if you want to look at it that way. 7 out of the 10 you succeeded. Kansas City is a more modern era of that. Much older era is the San Francisco 49ers. They would just go and destroy people. The moment was never bigger than them. And I think we're going to see the moment tomorrow be just a little bit bigger than Minnesota and be just about level for the Lions in terms of the moment and them rising to the occasion. But I think you're going to see them rise more to the occasion. And I think that the fans are going to be a critical part of that. And anyone over on the Minnesota side of the discussion that is saying that, oh, this and oh, that, you're the newbie, okay? You're the Pistons trying to get over, the Boston Celtics and the Los Angeles Lakers. And then you're the Chicago Bulls trying to get past the Pistons and trying to get past those guys. You got to earn the right. I don't see the Lions in any way, shape, or form going out tomorrow and just, laying an egg. I don't see an implosion. I don't see that as being possible. They're too well coached. They're too disciplined, and they have too much going for them in this moment, even with the injuries, that I don't think you'll see some type of implosion. You'll come back at me if I'm wrong on this, I'm sure, but I don't see any possible way that, there's a massive amount of turnovers or anything like that. They just won't put them in a position for that to happen. So Again, 32 years since the number 1 seed has been determined in the final week. First regular season game in history to have two 13-2 teams play each other in the regular season in general. So, back to the scenario, you win, you get a week's rest, you get a chance to get Anzalone healthy and not rushing him in any way. And Campbell said he doesn't want to rush him in a man. Again, remember, these guys that have been out for extended period of time, it's irregardless of the injury, there is no simulation possible. There's no practice, there's no training, there's no gym, there's nothing that can simulate game-like atmosphere and conditions, not even practice. It's just impossible. So even if Anzalone was on the field yesterday, he wouldn't be at a 100% peak performance. If Montgomery comes back and following the bye week, if they should win, you're not going to see 100% of Derek Montgomery either, because he's just been down and there's a process by which to come back. But the bye week will obviously help them. Should they lose, right? You go whoop, and gone is your first round home game. All right. And if they lose, you're basically looking at playing at Tampa Bay or at Atlanta or the Rams. That's what the loss means. And it's one more game. It's 4 games to win it all versus 3 games to win it all. It's every game is at home until the Super Bowl versus at least 1 game on the road. So, the guys can't rest, and it's just a harder road. Again, the Lions, I think they're prime. I think they're ready for this moment and will rise to the occasion.